Joining me now is Rick Grenell, former acting director of national intelligence. Rick, what was Bolton's reputation while in office, and what does it tell us now about his motivations having written this book?
Well, first of all, let's talk about his reputation at the NSC. He ran an NSC that leaked like crazy. Everything that happened leaked out of the NSC. Is it no surprise that somehow all of these stories didn't leak when everything else was leaking? I have to say that everyone should be troubled by someone who is unwilling to testify under oath, but then is willing to speak under a book deal. And to me, this is exactly what's happening. They saved salacious stories in order to sell books. There's no other explanation for this, because clearly this is not the President Trump that we know, and we had all sorts of signs that John Bolton was going to go his own way anyway.
Well, it was a disastrous pick. I mean, Bolton didn't agree with any of Trump's views about drawing down forces. And in one part of the book, he's just enraged that Trump didn't want to, bomb the, heck out of Syria, after they shot down our unmanned drone. The president decided, after looking at the projections for collateral damage and deaths, he said that too many body bags. To me, that's a president who's in control of the data, knows it, and says, I want to hold off. That's prudence.
Yeah, now look, I think that story was actually about Iran, if I remember correctly.
Iran, excuse me, Iran, not Syria.
Yeah.
That was after the unmanned drone. I stand corrected. Thank you.
And to want to start a war with Iran when you're the national security advisor for the president who ran on bringing our troops home, who ran on trying to stop endless wars, and to talk to the North Koreans instead of picking fights. This is yet another contradiction for Bolton. He didn't want to talk to the North Koreans. He is somebody who would rather pick the fights and push the policy in a very direct way. Now, that wasn't President Trump. He wanted to make sure that we weren't going to go into wars. Look, I've got my own situation going on because of John Bolton being different than what the president was when it comes to Kosovo and Serbia. We're having both of those two together at the White House next Saturday to talk about a historic movement and agreement, and yet I'm fighting constantly about this rumor about land swaps between the two, and that's not Trump's policy. But when you dig deep, both sides say, well, that's what John Bolton said. And so I'm fighting all of the rumors that persisted because Bolton was pursuing his own policy rather than President Trump's policy. So I think what you have to do is, when you sign up to work for a president like President Trump, who's a disruptor, who's from the outside, who wants to change Washington, you can't be somebody like John Bolton, who lives in Washington, D.C., whose career is Washington, D.C., who wants to go back to Washington, D.C., and make all of his money in Washington, D.C. when he's done. This is no longer a fight about Republicans versus Democrats. This is a fight of Washington, D.C. versus the rest of America.
Yeah, the swamp and those who want the money of the swamp to marinate in all these lobbies and all these groups. I mean, he wants to make big money. Okay, he can go make big money, but try not being a creep. Rick, thanks so much.